I was at Wake Forest for about 16 years, and every year we'd have a clinic, and I'd bring in guys like Dan John and Mike, and we brought in some great speakers. It's more laid back. I'm kind of laid back, but I do keep them on the clock a little bit. I'll kind of let you know when you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But my big thing is being a good mentor and helping other coaches out. And that's been my goal, is to try to always provide good education for young strength coaches, older strength coaches, and just try to do the best I can in helping with that. So please, today, if you can get the numbers of these speakers and you can keep up with them. In all my years, I coached for about 44 years, I always had mentors, and I had several mentors. And I always wanted to make sure I could call them up, have them come visit me, come watch workouts, or I'd go watch their workouts or whatever they were doing, but to share ideas and always be able to talk. And that's really what this is about today. So it's kind of laid back, and I just, we're going to start out with a good speaker here with Dan John. And Dan spoke a couple times with us over at Wake Forest, and he's pretty well known in the internet world, but he does a great job. And I think with all these other speakers, Dr. Shelley, Andrea, Mike, and I even brought my daughter with me. She's going to be doing some demonstrating this afternoon before Mike goes on and stuff. But I think we got a great lineup for today. All right.
I'm just going to echo what Ethan said already. Mondo does this the right way. The lineup they put together, these small, intimate clinics and conferences, they're tremendous. So the speaker lineup we have for the price point, in a small, intimate environment, it's tremendous what they do. They do it for the right reasons. So we're excited to have everyone here. Thank you for choosing to spend your day with us. Like Ethan said, the whole speaker panel is very engaging. So any free time you have, feel free to engage any of us, the strength staff here at Cornell and all the other speakers we have. Looking forward to showcasing the lineup we put together today. We want this to be very interactive. Like I said, let's keep this dialogue open today. Certainly for us, we're going to do a panel today. So if you're not asking us questions, I might start calling on you guys. All right, so make the most of it. Thanks for being here, and we'll kick off with Dan John.
Yeah, great.
Oh, that was actually,
you're good, man.
That's good. I really appreciate this. First off, there's something he said, and I want you to make sure you hear this. We were just talking about the Iliad and Odyssey. Truth, right? That's not a joke. We were. Ithaca, you got Homer down the road. The word mentor should always be capitalized, because mentor is a person's name. Telemachus' tutor, his name was Mentor. And that's why, what a great thing. Think 3,000 years from now, they're using your name as what it means to be a coach. To me, that's, I got to tell you, I started coaching in 1979, okay? I'm sure some of you were alive then. Okay, real quick. I started lifting weights in 1965. Who was alive there? Grandpa? I'll just be. No. But the thing is, think about it. When I look back, and I'll mention several of them, but there are people in my life who deserve to have their name capitalized, 2,000, 3,000 years from now. So I want you to think about that. So I'm Dan John. That's my phone number. Josh actually has my phone with him right now. So if you call that number, you'll hear someone who sounds just like me when they answer. If you need me, you can text me, you can call me. I'd rather do that with strength coaches. I can give you my email if you want that too. Most people have it. Dan@danjohn.net. Just text it. It's a business account, but so it's just there's a Italian clothier named Dan John. So my spam all comes in Italian, which I think is hilarious. So I can always tell spam. But and then I got this little place on the internet called Dan John University. And if you guys want a massive discount, so write these letters down. It's ESPN, but there's one little thing. ESPEN, and you'll get a massive discount. So ESPEN, ESPEN, and you get a huge discount. I can't give it away for free because it is a business thing, okay? But between my phone number, my email, and my we should be able to help you out. So let's get started today. I got a massive strength and conditioning, and I'm very, very proud of it. I've got diet books from the 1915s, Lulu Hunt's first calorie counting book. I've got weightlifting books. I've got everything. But the book, one of the best books I've ever seen to help me as a coach, I wish I had this book earlier, was called Think Like a Freak. And you don't have to buy the book. I'm going to sum the book for you right now. They had 2 points in the book that just made me, I went, that makes sense to me why I'm a happy person. Knowing what to measure simplifies life. So this morning I woke up, I always travel with a tape measure. So I always measure my waistline every morning. Generally also weigh in also. But because I know that that's my measurement for, my waistline is my measurement to check into my fitness and longevity. If you're a body composition client for me, we'll have measurements. And if I have good measurements, it's pretty easy. Why do I love the rest of my career? As a strength coach, literally, if you're stronger, I'm right. Dick Fosbury invented a thing called the Fosbury Flop, okay? His coach, Frank Miller, at Oregon State, did everything he possibly could to stop him from jumping like this. And of course, once Fosbury got the Olympic gold medal and the world record, his coach went around the nation teaching people the Fosbury Flop, which he hated and had nothing to do with. Nobody, I don't know if you've been to any track meet, but nobody runs up to the bar anymore and goes and jumps over, right? Why? Because if you do something that goes higher in track and field, within a week, everyone on the planet will do it. L.J. Sylvester, a fellow Utah State alum with me, he went home because his brother was beating him in the discus, so he practiced getting a wide leg out of the back of the ring in the discus. Everybody in the world throws with the wide leg in the discus now. Well, the Britons came out and said it doesn't work. They did a biomechanical study, but here's the funny thing. The first 70-meter thrower in history, L.J. Sylvester, was about 5 meters ahead of everybody else, 6 meters. Just because some British biomechanical study said it doesn't work, doesn't mean I'm changing my technique, right? If it works in track and field, it works, which is why I love my job. If your athletes are stronger in here, as a strength coach, I did my job. Now that's the $1 million thing, right? Transferring what we do here into what we do out there. Is that true? And I think that's the hardest part of the job of being a strength coach. I always joke this, we're the last hired, first fired. If your running back who was smoking marijuana before a game fumbles the ball, it was because we deadlifted 3 months before. Anyone have a story like that as a strength coach? That's how you know you're a strength coach. It's when you start getting those stories, That's why I tend to be pretty happy, because I know when I'm right in the fields I'm in. Now, how many of you are involved with a sport like American football? Hands, just real quick. Okay, how do you know you're right or wrong as an American football coach? Well, you can't say the sentence, well, Indiana must have the best program because they won the national championship. Is that true? No offense to Cornell, but Cornell, you can have the best strength and conditioning program in the world. Cornell can have the best, offensive minds, but unless Cornell steps up the game physically, if you guys had to play, let's say, Indiana, Alabama, Michigan, back to back to back this fall, there's a chance you guys would go 1-2. Okay, that was a joke. No offense. And you wouldn't have a season because no one would be left of the team. I don't know how to coach high school, but whenever your coach schedules we're going to have a really hard preseason, and you get to game 4, it's like, yeah, it's great, but we have no more athletes on the team. Coach Mon's great point from 1979. Local sportscaster said to him, "How many athletes do you have on the team this year?" Coach Mon, my coach, said, "We have 6." He goes, "Looks like you have 60 guys on the roster." You said athletes. I thought it was hilarious, but it's also 8:25. The second big point from this book is fear of the obvious. And I have up there, if you want to get stronger, lift weights. If you want your hurdlers to be better, hurdle. Sprinters sprint, throwers throw, jumpers jump. When you get away from that is what kills you as a coaching staff. You know, if you're a swimming coach and you're trying to win the pool in the weight room, I think you're wrong. You know, I see this at high school track meets all the time. You'll see a kid with a shirt on that says, you know, blank high school powerlifting, you know, the 1,400 pound team. And then he does a standing throw. Well, throwers throw. This kid might bench 400 as a high school senior, but if he's throwing the discus 105 and the shot 35, your program doesn't work, okay? And those of you who are wrestling coaches, you all know this too. Guy shows up in the mat, looks like, you know, you're about to take Arnold out of Conan, and the kid can't even, you know, grab an ankle, okay? We see that all the time. Fear of the obvious is going to be the biggest thing. By the way, if you are listening to anything I said so far, I'm done with today's talk. Because that summarizes strength and conditioning in a nutshell. But, we were talking about this last night at dinner. Erin, do you have, oh, she has her shirt, but Erin has a shirt that says Master the Basics on it. Oh, you're fine. It says, right there, it says Master the Basics. And you know what? If all you do in my field is master the basics, it'd be awesome. But you know what? It just isn't safe. When people ask me about nutrition, I say, you know, protein, carbs, fiber. What's the third? Fats. Right? I don't want to step on your talk today if I ruined it. I hope I didn't.
He's one talk.
Yeah, you should eat protein. You know, eat some damn veggies. You know, drink some water. But what's the best recovery tool? Hand comes up. Monster drinks. Sleep was the right answer. My athletes don't sleep. Why? Because they're on social media and they're on monster drinks. Yeah. So this really is my whole talk in a nutshell, but they paid me for an hour, so let's get going. This is an important slide, and I've been using it for a long time. In the past, I liked it back when I was young. Now I'm about to say something that's going to come off as a little offensive. But when I was young, I was told two things about lifting weights. Number one is that I was going to become inflexible. That I would suddenly, I would not be able to touch my toes. I'm almost 70. I want to show. I don't want to brag or anything, but watch this, folks. I've been lifting weights since 1965, and I can still touch my toes. I was also told as a youth that weightlifting, and I'm quoting, would turn me into a homosexual. Now, if you do 5 sets of 5, maybe, but I do 3 sets of 8. I liked when I first started as a strength coach in '79, I loved it because nobody was an expert yet. For those you have to deal with parents, and as every good high school coach will ever do. Who's a high school coach in here? The best high school coaching you can do is at an orphan school, right? It's the best. I mean, no offense to it. I had a mom tell me I didn't understand anything about college sports. I was a Division I MVP. I don't know. I think I do understand it. I coached at that level for a long time. Oh, things have changed. Oh yeah. And the Iliad has changed so much since the last time I read it. Yeah. So, what happened in the last? There's been 2 things that happened. First off, and I was there for both of them. It was so great to be a weight and strength coach at the meeting. And then Arnold, the Education of a Bodybuilder, came out. And every frat boy at every university all of a sudden was on Arnold's 6-day-a-week program. They didn't do the body weight 6-month program he recommended. Didn't do the 3-day-a-week. They didn't do the 4-day-a-week. They went right to the superset 6-day-a-week program. And then Pumping Iron came out. And then Conan. There are 600 muscles in the body. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we make in strength and conditioning. I think there's one muscle in the body that's subdivided into 600 parts. But the second I get a kid out there throwing the discus, Dad, who was bodybuilding in college, says they should do flies to throw the discus far. How many of you have good discus throwers? Good. Do you ever see a kid come around here and go, huh? No! It's a bow and arrow that makes it go far. It's a snap. And yet we have now Frankenstein's monster as our image. Arm day, leg day, back day. Now, at my age, so, once you hit about 56 plus, you should bodybuild. It's appropriate because, is anyone here over 55? Did you notice your lean body mass changing at all as you aged? Yeah, it just does. I don't know if you've noticed this. I walked by that bagel and put 3 pounds on, and you don't have to eat anymore. After 55, you should bodybuild. When you're a teenage and a 20-something athlete, you should train like an athlete. But the second you, coach, we're gonna do snatches today. Oh, is that a traps exercise? Not if you're trying to lift heavy. Is that do you guys hear the same things of this is a bicep exercise? And it's not. If you're throwing big, all you got to do. My best snatch is 314 pounds. Trust me, it's not this. You got to do a whole bunch of other things to work it over your head. So what's been happening? By the way, this is from my work. It's called the 4 quadrants. I break the impact of strength and conditioning into 4 quadrants. This one is youth physical education, quadrant 1. Football and special forces. Lots of high school PE or junior high PE program. You should teach them lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things, but the quality, the level is going to be fairly low, right? And when I was in high school, we had the high school, in our PE class, we played basketball. And the joke is, we won the championship game 4-2, okay? Because we weren't very good. We were good at football, wrestling, track and field, but we were not basketball players. So we played for 45 minutes and we scored 2 baskets. I know the game, my level is low. Does that make sense? Special forces in football, lots and lots and lots and lots of qualities at a freakishly high range. When you're in a locker room, an NFL locker room, it is freakish because you are the smallest, slowest, weakest person in there. It's, when you work at the NBA, the joke I make about working at the NBA, elevators smell different. Think about it over the next day or so, and you'll laugh. I used to work with a team, hard to believe, but there's a basketball team in Utah. A lot of people don't know this. And people say about how small this guy named John Stockton was. Anyone remember John Stockton? Yeah. John Stockton towers over. And his hands are so freakishly big, he could probably palm a basketball this way. I mean, his fingers drip over the sides. The smallest guy in the NBA is the biggest person you probably know. So the qualities are as high as humans can possibly have. Over here is quadrant 3, 1 or 2 qualities at a reasonable level. As a discus thrower, you need to have 2 qualities. You need to have outstanding biomechanical technique, and you need to be at certain levels of strength, but we'll get to more later, okay? I'll give them to you. Tom Fahey's numbers. He said you should be an international thrower if you have these numbers in the weight room. 400 bench, 250 snatch, 300 clean, and 450 back squat. If you're lifting those numbers in here, you should be at international levels out there. And here's the conundrum about modern strength and conditioning. You got Billy who benches 4, snatches 250, cleans 300, squats 450. But he wants to increase his lifts in here. He's throwing 120, 130, 140 instead of 190, 200, 210. He's trying to answer the question here because it's much easier to get stronger in here than it is to get better out there. Okay? So we are crushing things in track and field in a lot of places. And then of course up here, you have a sport called powerlifting. And, oh, by the way, I should ask first. Any power lifters? Oh, good, 'cause otherwise I have to talk a lot slower. Just so what he does is he just check every time I say something offensive, he puts a check mark and then we just add it up at the end. Yeah. But you know, how many of you ever heard this from a power lifter? I'll tell you one thing, if I coached for Penn State to throw in there, I'll tell you one thing, we'd be stronger in the weight room. You always hear that phrase. They get like, yeah, I'll tell you what we do. Problem is, if you have all your linemen squatting 800 pounds and benching, deadlifting 800, they might not be able to do this. They might be as big as desks, but they can't move. And that's the problem you run into. And we've been crushing this field for at least a generation. So we've got a couple of influences that bother me, and it wasn't that bother me. Meaning, first off, you have the influence of fitness influencers and bodybuilding, right? I'm not joking, right? And you're in the nutrition side. I guarantee. Do you remember that company that basically took grass and dried it up and made you drink it every morning? Do you remember that? They're not popular. It was 2 years ago. I was constantly getting packets of this green dust, plant dust. Like somehow that was going to turn me into a superstar, you know. The fitness influence, you get the bodybuilding, the nutrition stuff. Do your athletes listen to this stuff? Oh yeah, they do. Oh yeah, they do. And I've got great respect for a lot of them. I'm friends with a number of them. And I agree with what they say, but not if you're going to be on the field of play. If you want to look good on the beach, you talk to Rusty Moore or Greg O'Gallagher. Okay? They're going to make you look good on the beach. You want to throw a discus far, you got to talk to the old guys. Old ugly guys. I was being nice. So, what's been happening is we're getting crushed by the powerlifting side. We're getting crushed by the bodybuilding side. And since 9/11, as we discussed a few minutes ago, we've also been getting crushed by the special forces side. You see this in magazines all the time. Men's Health. Train like a Navy SEAL. Let me tell you how to train like a Navy SEAL. 1, join the Navy. No, seriously, it's kind of a perk. Now, you can also be in the Coast Guard and slide over, just in case you're wondering, okay? Then you go to this fun little place called Buds, and then you spend a few happy weeks being, and then you join a couple other things, and then one day they give you a Trident, and then you're a Navy SEAL, and no matter what you do after that, then you train like a Navy SEAL. Okay? Training like an Olympian, you should be an Olympian first. I was lucky. So in 1965, my brother had just gotten back from a tour in Vietnam. He was disabled. My aunt died, and she gave us $500. And so my brothers went to a place called Sears and bought the Ted Williams 110-pound, 50-kilo barbell set. And I got to tell you, and I still have the original booklet. It's in my office, and I love it. And that was the cover of the booklet. And Ted Williams reminds us, keep fit, exercise. A strong, healthy body is a man's most valuable asset. Things were different there. And almost the entire program was based on weights on the ground, and you pick them up and you put them overhead. I wrote one of my first free books was called From the Ground Up, and I'm still convinced that what you need in most of your schools, no offense to Cornell, but knock all this stuff out of the way, put all the barbells on the ground, and spend 3 or 4 months starting on the ground, every exercise from the ground. And at the end of it, you won't do it, and you'll lose it. You know, everyone will hate you. But I got to tell you, if you've ever, I don't know, some of the older people, when I was young, there were no bench press racks. So you took a piece of wood, and you put 5 bricks on it, and your buddies would go, and you'd bench press, and you'd get these great scads, because it was a plywood, and you'd get these great lines in your back, and you'd bench. Having a bunch of 14-year-olds pick up a weight and spot each other, I still think is a better way to learn safety in the weight room, okay? The Ted Williams barbell set from Sears, changed my life. He believed in 2 sets of 5, big global exercises and things were good. So for the first few years of my life, everything was on the floor and everything was based overhead. So I was lucky. I was in there before the bench press took over. I was in there before the back squat took over. I was there before the deadlift took over. By the way, is this resonating with some of you coaches where this, okay, good. Then of course I also had brothers who lifted. My brothers we're a track and field family. They were runners. I was the smart one. They're quite good. Of course, in 1975, he just died 6 months ago, but Dick Knottmeyer taught me the Olympic lifts. And so this is my 51st year of Olympic lifting this year. I'm still on a team, and whenever my team needs free points, because, you know, the nice thing about weight, anyone gone to an Olympic lifting meet? It's great. Everybody gets a gold medal, right? Because so I always win. There's just not a lot of 66 to 70-year-old weightlifters in my weight class. I don't know why. And then an article that changed my entire life. We were at San Francisco State, and I was doing, for my advanced biology class, I was studying the Pacific bottlenose dolphin, because that's what you do. And I was able to find 2 great articles within about 3 minutes in their library. So we had a whole afternoon, so I went to the track and field area, and I found track technique. It's interesting to think about this, because this is my junior year in high school. And Dave Davis said, Brian Oldfield, Al Feuerbach, Bruce Wilhelm, and Sam Walker favored the quick lifts. That'd be the Olympic lifts. While George Woods and Randy Matson leaned towards the strength lifts. If there was any real consensus among champion shot putters, it was that a mixture of quick and strength lifts is effective. And I'm really happy I read that, because that's my whole strength and conditioning career. Basically, somehow at some level, you mix the Olympic lifts with the power lifts. I would add today the variations we call loaded carries. That's either dragging or farmer walks. How many of you incorporate loaded carries, farmer walks, drags in your training? Good. And remember, for those of you, this stuff, if I'd have been in the audience in 1999, no hands would have gone up. Is that true? Yeah. It is. Yeah, it's very. I'll give myself a little credit for that. But so if you have a program where you snatch, clean, bench, squat variations, and farmer walks, you have a really good program. You have a good program. What's the problem with all those exercises for your 2026 athlete? Where are the curls? Where are the skull crushers? When I was coaching at a school, we had a female shot putter, a woman shot putter. Wasn't very good, but she wouldn't listen to me in the weight room because her boyfriend was a personal trainer, so highly qualified. I don't know if you guys know how qualified personal trainers are. And he was, because I met him one time and he had his name on his shirt. I don't make a big deal, folks, but no, Ethan, I'm serious. He had his name on his shirt. No, seriously, man. So if you have your name on your shirt, you know, when you go to a gas station, Mel, he must know about cars because, so I just say, hey, Mel, here's my car. You must know what I'm doing because you have your. So he said to her that she should, to throw the shot put, should do skull crushers. Because as all of us know, and we're going to do this, we're going to take all of you outside later, and we're going to have you throw the shot put, the 16-pound, because it's the easiest way. And we're going to have you throw it like this, okay? Each one of you has to take 10 max throws, okay? And then we'll have the elbow specialists come in here and do surgery on all of you. Because if you can't throw the shot like this, you're a little too dumb to really be with me right now. So with this, so where we're at today is we are fighting against social media, Instagram influencers, people who take grass dust for breakfast, or infrared lights on all parts of their body. Why aren't you throwing farther? Well, I haven't put my infrared light on yet today. Okay. Let's get to the answers. So, there's nothing new under the sun. The answer's always been obvious. It's always been around. Someone got on me online about intermittent fasting. Hippocrates, high school classmate of mine, in 471 BC advised obese people and those desiring to lose might know, but Bosco, does that ring a bell with anybody? He was this great, Bosco was this big mustachio guy. His waistline was about this big. Bosco's best snatch, it was an imaginary guy, was 984 pounds. He was going to try 1,000, said Harry, but that he was going to put that off to the next summer. It's just a cartoon, but Harry Pascal was a great, and I still think his workouts are some of the best ever put together. He has 4 programs. But he said, and it was the first article I'd ever read about throwing. It had probably been about 1967. And the quote was, as the late Harry Pascal put it, the strength of the lower back and hips determines one's ability to run, twist, jump, throw, or lift, whichever the particular sport requires. And I got to tell you, folks, I still agree with that. I made fun of the lat fly as a discus throwing exercise. I made fun of the skull crusher as a shot put exercise. But the other thing I'm not a big fan is rotation work. Now, you can disagree with me, and I'm fine with that. I have no issues. But you know, I threw the discus at a high level for 41 years. 1972, when I retired, July 24th, 2010. I tried them all, and I got very little carryover. But when I finally started working with Stu McGill, do you guys know the work of Stu McGill? Raise your hands if you know Stu. Okay, if you don't, STUMCGILL. He is a Canadian back specialist guy, and I think his best book for us is called The Gift of Injury. Now, for those of you who are more into higher levels, he also has a whole curriculum for spinal health and stuff. But if you're just a strength coach, if you're a sports coach, The Gift of Injury will give you about everything you need. And when I would talk to Stu would say he gets very angry that people recommending too early the rotation work. Stu went to a workshop, and he said the guy was brilliant. And the guy said to just do suitcase carries to develop anti-rotation, which will help you with rotation. After he went up to his facility and found out that the suitcase carry is probably the best thing for anti and rotational strength. The speaker was brilliant, I guess. It was 2 or 3. So missed that whole one. So for me, the Olympic lifts and the power lifts and loaded carries, suitcase carry, these are going to be your best friends in the weight room. However, and all of you know, because I'm going to say it one more time, we are fighting against social media, we're fighting against bodybuilding, we're fighting against the image of what an athlete should look like versus what we want them to be. So this next section is how to think like a strength coach. Now, that's me training in my backyard. So what I'm doing there is I'm going to do overhead squats, but you guys see I'm connected to a sled. So these are called lift and sleds. So you do a lift, throw the weight, and sprint away. And to me, that's, if you can't teach the Olympic lifts, you can do stuff like that. I want to talk more, but this is important. One of the things I picked up through my career, and I'll stay in the game, sorry.
You're fine, you're fine.
One of the things I picked up in my career is very often things didn't transfer well from the weight room out on the field of play. True. We were talking this on the way over about, if Ellington Darden and Arthur Jones were right, the Nautilus stuff. And listen, if you train Nautilus and you can snatch 300 or throw the discus 210, I'm going to listen to you. But I've never seen leg extensions carry over to the field of play. Did I say leg extensions were wrong? No. I've never had a kid come up to me and say, coach, it was the lunges that made the difference this offseason. But I have heard kids tell me about the clean and some other exercises making a difference. One of the first who's involved in wrestling here? Anyone wrestling? One of the first articles I ever read about if you can snatch your body weight, I'm going to pretend we're the same body weight. We're about to wrestle, and I know I can whip him over my head. That's going to give me a level of confidence No, I mean, certainly, I mean, if all I can do is deadlift them, okay, that's fine. I can clean them. But if I know I could do this in the middle of a match, you know, a WWF moment, that's going to help me out in wrestling, okay? So there's real advantages to these ideas, okay? So, do you guys know how my neighbors feel about me? They're looking at me. We'll see. Of all the things I teach you this morning, I think this is probably the most, I talk about, I think this is the most important. I think when you think as a strength coach, it's very important. So I came up with this years ago, and it's grades. A, B, C, and F. And I grade things. Now, I don't mind, but I use Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule on this. But it's very simple, and I judge everything. I think it's my job as a leader. If I'm the head coach in a place, if I'm the department head, one of my jobs is to judge, to be with my assistant coaches or to my department or whatever. That's part of our job. And if you're a good coach, you've got to judge. You know, if some kid says that I just squatted 600 and it was like that, your job has to be judging, okay? And if you are an official, you have to be judging. Our jobs. So, real simple, I'll start at the top. And I make a good living as a writer, okay? I wrote a book in 2007 called Never Let Go. In fact, that's how I signed the books for you guys. Never Let Go, because it's like my motto. I wrote the book in 2007. That book paid for my daughter's bachelor's and master's degrees. Every month I open my mailbox and I get a check for a book I wrote in 2007. It was hard work, but I haven't done a damn thing since. So for me, the best thing I ever did in my life, make money. Don't tell my daughters I just said that, okay? But it's true. But it was writing that book because I'm getting royalties. So for me, royalties get an A grade. It's how much. So your time, your treasure, your talents. If a little teeny bit of your time, treasure, and talents gives you a huge benefit on the other side, 80% back, could you be a good discus thrower just doing snatches? Yeah, you probably could. So the snatch for a discus thrower is probably an A grade. Shot putters, the clean and jerk or the clean and press, probably an A grade. I don't know what your sport is, but it'd be nice for you to think through. You know, I've seen this over and over again. A grades, a little bit of time, massive amount of benefit. Think about friends too in this, because friends are a good way to, I want you, some of you probably already know who your A friend. For me, an A friend is this. Okay, I break down in Sherbrooke, up in Canada. I get on the phone and I call Ethan. I say, hey man, I'm broke down. Ethan gets in his car from Nashville, drives all the way up to Canada and helps me out. That's an A friend. Okay, an A friend is one that shows up, big tarp in the back of the trunk and a shovel, and goes, just got you. No details, man, no details. I always have a shovel and a tarp. If you ever need help, call me. Okay, I got you covered. Okay, just saying, no questions asked either. A friends, what are the A lifts for the sport you're doing? What is the big bang? What is the big one? And that has to be a central part of what you're trying to do. Now, B grades, and of course I always use that because I think it's funny, I always use fiber as my example. What you put in, you get out, okay? That's a good B grade. So B grades for me, for example, the power lifts. I have great respect for the power lifts, but what you get from the power lifts is what you get back, at least in track and field. And I would say even in American football. If you have an entire team of people who can clean 200, it's different than if you have an entire team of people who can clean deadlift 400. I know that if you can clean it, it's sometimes different than if you could deadlift it. Does that resonate with what I'm trying to say? I also include that as your 9 to 5 job too. For those of you who ever had a job where you had to go, it was tough, but you had this job because for your kids and you were worried about things, but it wasn't your life. Anyone ever have a job like that? I was a machine mover, and then I worked in a cheese factory. A cheese factory job, 10 o'clock at night to 6:30 in the morning, cleaning cheese. Very difficult job, but it paid the bills, took care of things. It wasn't my life. I didn't wake up when I was 10 years old and say, Mom and Dad, I want to be a cooker cleaner at a cheese factory. I never said that sentence. 9 to 5 job, okay? So, we got to judge things this way. And then finally, there's this next one here, the C grade. Now, there's a great story called Acres of Diamonds, okay? About this guy who, there's this big diamond rush and he sells everything. Turns out that his own house, his ranch, where he started, actually was the biggest diamond haul ever. People are always trying to go out somewhere else and find things. I'm that way too. I try everything. I know those of you who follow my work, I always talk about, I don't share all the stupid things. How many of you ever tried something stupid in the weight room? Has anyone got a good one? Did anyone here do the Bulgarian blast training? No, well, just me. Okay. Anyone have a good dumb one? 2 years of Nautilus, 2 years of CrossFit. How do you know? Anybody? Come on, share one dumb thing you've done. Come on, you've pulled in come on. You went to GNC, you drove to GNC, and you bought horny goat. Come on. B15, you guys remember B15? Is that even exist anymore, B15? No? Okay. So, but here's what happens sometimes. I'm at a workshop, about 20-something years ago, 23 years ago, and this guy comes up to me and goes, hey, can I talk to you? Go to lunch? I go, sure. He goes, I want to specialize in one body part. And I go, okay, what? He goes, I want to be the glute guy. And I thought to myself, damn it, that's such a great idea. Who's ever heard of Brett Contreras? Oh, okay. Who's ever heard of the hip thrust? Yeah. So I never thought much of the hip thrust. So years later, I'm with Brett, and now we're in Las Vegas. And he's trying to show me the hip thrust. He's trying to explain it to me. So we're in Las Vegas, and there's a group about this size, and we're walking through one of the casinos, and he walks over to a couch. He puts his arm on the couch like this and starts doing hip thrust to explain a point. And I thought to myself, only in Las Vegas can a male be sitting on a couch doing this with a crowd of other people doing this. And no one even looked second. It was like, yeah. Well, when I finally learned the hip thrust, I tossed out a ton of stuff. Because the hip thrust to me was originally a C grade. Interesting. That became an A grade. That makes sense to you? So sometimes that's why you have to keep trying things. I think 80% of what we do is right. But we all know the problem, right? I don't know the 20% that's wrong. Years ago, as a football coach, we had two offenses. We ran the run and shoot, and then we had the I formation with the blasts and powers. We made a decision one season to toss out the blasts and powers. We're just going to be the run and shoot team. We went from winning games all the time to suddenly losing because we tossed the cliche. We threw the baby out with the bathwater. By trying to simplify too much, we lost what we didn't know. We lost our power running game, okay? So sometimes you make a decision, oh, this is a good idea, but it can be wrong. I don't know, do any of you no longer do an exercise, just dropped it? Does anyone have an example? Sir?
I'm older, so I don't lift anymore because I had hernias.
Perfect. So for him, if I came in and we're gonna try heels together on a box deadlifts. No. So we have to cast out certain things. They're just not helping us. But sometimes you can't see it. And of course, okay. So we talked about A friends, Ethan showing driving 12 hours to help me out. You probably have a lot of B friends, very often can be coworkers. They're good friends, they're good people. A lot of my friends when I was a school teacher were school teachers. C friends, or maybe I'm involved in the arts. I don't know anything about them, I just support them. But I meet a lot of people at these things, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Sometimes those meetings, those new friends become A friends, like a guy named Eric Aragon. We met at a Hot House West thing, basically, and now we're good friends. That makes sense to you? And then there's the F. Now, I want you to think about friends first. Do any of you have a friend or had a friend who ate up all your time, treasure, and talents? Sucked you dry, and then gave nothing in return. When I was going, a couple years back, I went to the dark night of the soul. It was a real rough time in my life. Lots of bad things going on at once. And I called up a friend of mine, and we were on the phone, I think 58-minute phone call. And she talked for 57 minutes and 50 seconds about her miserable life, and then said, I heard you're not doing well. Oh, I got to go. I haven't talked to her since, because I looked at my chart and decided that's an F friend. Okay? Now, there are a lot of things I have done stupid in my life. Now I grade them, and I call them F grades. And it upsets people. I don't know, do you guys ever read the comments in my YouTube? If I say something negative about lunges, you would have think I took this person, dug their mother up, and I offend people by saying I don't like lunges. You know why I don't like lunges? I don't like lunges. I just don't. I don't. Do them all you want. I don't like them. Stu McGill's talking about all these personal trainers now are overdoing the lunge so much that people are splitting their pelvises, or pelvi. I don't know. Pelvises. Lunge. And I maybe you guys enjoy it, but I just never seen it on the field. So for me, it's an F grade. Burpees. My God, man, when I point out I don't like burpees, so there's a guy, his name was Royal Burpee. That was literally his name. He invented the burpee as an assessment. And you know how many you're supposed to do? 4. Any more than 4, you're wasting your time. I mean, I talk to people, I'm the national jumping jack champion. Who cares about it? I don't do that. I don't have my throwers jog. They sprint up hills, they don't jog. For throwers, jogging is an F grade. So you got to think these things through. Now, once you do that, then we can start moving to the next spot. This is my 920. 920. Yes. If anyone, I'll put this up at the end. Oh, wait a second. Excuse me. You all have it, don't you? Does anyone have the booklet? Yeah, I think I put it in the back. Oh, yeah. So you guys have it in there, okay? So, by the way, I put this together for this talk. I thought, because you only give me 50 minutes. So what I did is I went through, I thought to myself, what is every A and B exercise I know? And then I organized it. And I basically think of the weight room as 5 movements plus the 6th movement. And the 6th movement could be climbing, could be crawling, could be tumbling. It could be anything else you want to do. Sometimes it's easier to just say, we just say the 6th movement. We just kind of, and I'm a big believer in all of it. So push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry. This here is basically isometrics, which I still think is the best way to say it. There's a moment in the discus throw in our language we call it 3B. So I'm throwing that way, and you see I'm in a position where the discus is kind of opposite where I'm going to head it. Well, it's a real bit. And you also notice that my hand is behind my right foot. To find that position in real time is really hard, and athletes will blow through it. So when I'm teaching a technique, very often we'll put them in an isometric position, let them feel it, really feel it, Then you shake it out and you throw, and very often the athlete go, got it, okay. Because sometimes you have to teach the nervous system as much slower than you think. By the way, isometrics still have great value. The issue with isometrics has always been, it works for about 6 weeks. Now, that 6 weeks can change an athlete's entire career. So they're very valuable, but then they stop working. But if you think about it, it makes sense, because we are dynamic. The next one over is strength, the traditional strength and conditioning family, stuff you recognize in every gym. Anti-rotational work. Remember, I'm not a huge believer in rotation work. And then the triads, that's when you combine a push, a pull, and a hinge becomes a push jerk. Kettlebell swing. I'm a kettlebell instructor, but I think I teach the swing later than anybody else in the world. Because if you don't know what a squat is versus a hinge, you shouldn't be doing ballistic movements. The squat, full hip bend, full knee bend, hinge, full hip bend, appropriate knee bend. Mistakes people make is when they start to squat their swing, my lower back hurts. Okay, it's a series of standing long jumps, not a series of weirdly contracted, whatever I usually see. So then over here, these are those combination movements of like the overhead squat and sprint, or the overhead squat and sled pull. And then you combine them into 4 with the snatch and jerk. Real quick, I've been in situations where I've had no equipment as a coach. All the bolded ones are, you don't need equipment for, okay? Those are all, you can either use a buddy, a rock, or anything. Oh, and pups, by the way, push-up position planks. If I had, if this was a full workshop, we would go through all those movements. But what I'm challenging you to do is this. I want you to think about your A's, your B's, your C's, and your F grades, and try to put together your own chart. Now, for example, at your school, you insist on lunges. Okay, fine, lunge, great. Then I want you to have an isometric teaching position. I would like you to have a strength movement, and then maybe you can do something where you're doing lunges, but with the load in a funny place, so you have to fight your rotation. You could do dynamic, like that plyometric, that bounding plyometric. I'm fine with that. But just try to have a system as you do it. When I'm working, my javelin thrower just made All-American, second team All-American, but it's just so frustrating. But and 2 years ago, my discus thrower made All-American. Really, straight up. And it's interesting because when I'm working with a thrower, very often their weight workout during in-season is snatch, suitcase carry. Because all we want to do in the late season is be ready. Now, the moment, for example, Emily, my discus thrower, once she got back from the Nationals, wanted to train again, we slid her back, well, she took some time off, but then we slid her back to just a basic 1 or 2 weeks of hip thrust, goblet squats, and basic stuff, just real, general stuff. Went back and got strong again, started doing the anti-rotation stuff, and then started to speed things up. Does that make sense to you? Think this through. If you have, and I'll warn you on this, get Bill Pearl's Pearls of Wisdom, his book that has all the exercise. He probably, and I'm not joking, 40 to 50 curl variations in the book. How many squat variations are there? I mean, really, how many? I mean, there's goblet, which is probably the most important exercise ever invented. The double kettlebell front squat. Okay, so there's the overhead squat, the front squat, the back squat, the belt squats return, and the Zerchers. But really, are you going to have a bunch? Could you imagine the moms if you have all your middle school girls doing Zercher squats? Could you imagine that conversation? Zercher is when you put the barbell in your elbows and squat, which is great exercise. 200 variations of the curl. I think there's 6, 7, maybe 8 squats. By the way, I'll also remind you, squats are hard, curls are not. That helps you. But what you're going to do then is you take the exercises that you know and like, and you think them through. And you put them down so you can teach them and improve on them. Now, the most important part of the talk is now. Donna Summers told me one day, she goes, Danny, enough is enough is enough is enough. I can't go on. I can't go on. I told Donna, you should write that into a song. Okay, sorry. Enough is enough. Oprah's new book that came out a couple months ago about GLP-1s. What's the title of the book? Enough. In a moment, I'm going to show you the Swedish term for enough. Okay? One of the hardest things as a strength coach is what's enough. By the way, these numbers are in the book. Okay? So this is my high school Big Blue Club. I want you to know this. So at the time we were a 3A school in Utah. So that you should be going, holy cow, a 3A school in Utah. You must have sent everybody to the NFL. Actually, we did, except one kid from that team to the NFL. 9 Division I football players from a school that had a population of 350 boys in high school. Okay? One year, I sent my varsity football coach, who sadly died just a few months ago, John Colosimo. He died of Parkinson's. Terrible, terrible. 62 boys who could all clean 205, deadlift 315, back squat 255, front squat 205, standing press 115, one arm bench 32K, 5 left, 5 right, and power clean and jerk 165. How did we do that season? We won 3 state championships. Our scout team backups were stronger than our opponent's starters. Because here's what I'm going to tell you, for high school football, this is how strong you are. Probably same for you guys here at Cornell. You are as strong as your 35th athlete in football. That's how strong you are. So you have 12 kids, they all 9 kids, they all deadlift 6, bench 5, whatever, clean 1,000. And they're in practice going against a kid who can't clean the bar. What's happening in practice? Nothing. My kids would tell me, it's weird, coach, because I'm not getting a good look. And I'd be like, well, you're in a game right now, guy. This kid is so weak, I'm blowing him out. That's why we work so hard in the offseason. That's why the offseason counts. If I have a boy at those levels, or a young lady at these levels, power clean 95. By the way, someone called me a misogynist the other day online. It really bothers me. I'm the father of 2 daughters, very proud of them. Lindsay was a hammer thrower at the University of Utah. Kelly's doing I've been working with women in the weight room since 1979. Now, if you think it was hard for men to lift weights before it became cool, for women it was even harder. So I've been working with, I would say, thousands of young ladies. And that thing, there wasn't a lot of information when I started. So these numbers were real. And I spent way too much time worrying about whether the military press for a high school girl should be 70 or 75 pounds. We didn't have anything in the middle, because it should be probably 72 and a half pounds. Power clean 95, deadlift 205, back squat 135, front squat 95, standing press 70, one arm bench 12 for 10, and power clean and jerk 75. That's enough for a high school boy or girl to compete. Now, certainly, do we want to get stronger than that? Well, yeah, but let's get to enough before we worry about everything else. So when I first come to a school, very often, the bench press, the kids, you'll notice bench press isn't up there. Because when you first come to a high school, that's all they care about. So my job is to get them thinking in a different place, okay? If you have 35 kids that strong, maybe in a volleyball program, you probably want to look at volleyball, probably your 13th, 14th athletes, how strong your program. In basketball, it's hard. Basketball is different, but if you have 40 young men in your football program, all of those numbers, your scout team is going to give a good look. They're going to have, your starters will have to fight to do well in practice all week. If they fight hard during the week, they fight well on Friday night. Okay? So enough is the hardest thing we learn. So, and then I said, the biggest thing is, the Swedes have this word called, and I'm not going to say it right, but lagen. And it just means enough in everything in life. I thought last night with this great dinner, I thought we had enough appetizers. And we certainly had enough desserts. There was no question about that. But sometimes in life, you have to figure out what enough is for you. How much money do you need to be happy? And what's enough for you? How strong do you have to be? What's enough? Once you move to that, then I come into a concept which I really want to make sure I emphasize here, level changes. My biggest knock on so many curves, hatches, and ascents, so did Nautilus. I sit down, I put on a seat belt because you know how dangerous leg extensions can be. I sit down and I do this, then I sit down and I do this, I sit down and I do this, I sit down. You ever been to a standard gym? How often in a game of football are you sitting? Well, if you're not very good, it's the whole game. But so one of the things I try to emphasize is levels. I go through this on anything, but so if I'm on my back, there's a whole variation of floor presses I can do. In the prone position, I can do a push-up. What else do I have there? 6-point is hands, knees, and feet. Maybe this doesn't work for everything, but if you're having a kid who's struggling squatting, this rock is a good way to teach it. Bear position is knees off the ground, half kneeling. Now we're starting to get into an interesting thing. When I do half kneeling presses, I'm stretching out my hip flexor, but I'm also, with every press I'm getting knocked around. So my body, I don't have to teach stabilization here. My body's going to do it, okay? Of course, I love just the platform and the weights, but if I'm doing this, standing position, I try to do as many exercises as I can figure out standing, but then something's often missed. I love the walking seesaw press, because when you're walking seesaw press, every time I move, my body has to sink through it, okay? And then of course on the bottom there it says loaded carries. One of the ways, it's been a joy the last 2 years. My daughters, we went through this hard time, and then they decided one summer to kill me. They both got pregnant at the same time. They both have had historically tough pregnancies. So, and I just said, I'll just give you my money. You don't have to do it this way. It's easier if I just give you my money, okay? But one of the great joys in my last couple of years, since I've been having a chance with grandchildren, is I play with them on the floor. And I got to tell you, when you're with grandbabies, you're on the floor for 25, 30 minutes. Statistically, at my age, and some other people in here, the most dangerous thing in this weight room is right there. I don't know if you guys see this scar on my face. I got stomach flu about 1.5 years ago, and I passed out throwing up, and I hit my face. And my doctor who I taught in high school is like, he's so concerned because I was very close to not being here today. I'm not being morbid, I'm just saying, at my age, man, the floor is back. I'll hurt, I swear. So the first thing I want you to think about, and I talk about it in that book a little bit for you, so I want you to start thinking about how many levels do your athletes use in your typical workout. Listen, just as something, so I've changed levels just by carrying a suitcase carrying a one-hand weight. I've changed levels. If I do stand-up military presses versus machine, I've changed levels. Does it make sense? Half kneeling, I've changed levels. More on the ground, more on your back, more on your belly. Think. It's also and it does carry over on the field of play. So, can I have like 3 extra minutes? Ethan, can I have 3 extra minutes? Thanks. So I have 2 new tools I'm using. The first is called Poop Sight. That's not how I say it. The idea is this, folks, and I want you to think about it. It helps me a lot. So I'm almost 70, okay? So one of the things I'm doing right now, 20 years from now, what do I not want? And I don't want to be in the home. I've had too many friends already at my age having to make tough life choices. I don't want to be in the home. So for me, that makes me get up every day, I floss my teeth, I do all these things, I exercise, I walk, okay? I take it very seriously. With your athletes, I often say this to you, okay, so you can't make practice, so we got this June, July session, you can't make it. I push them ahead to November, and I say, because we didn't get in good shape, we don't make the state championship. Remember your brother won one? But that's fine. So what I do is I introduce a terrible future for them in talking. Does that make sense to you? So, and we used to do it when I was first teaching, you know, if you continue to do this, you'll end up in prison. I have changed the way I say that. I've changed the way I say it a little bit, but now I say, what's the worst thing you can imagine if you don't graduate from high school? Well, and once that really seems to help most people. You know, I want to be a ballerina, I want to play in the NFL, I want to be I want to be a unicorn, whatever. If you ask somebody what you don't want, it helps. And then the next thing on the other side is called naga. Like, I'm not going to do that again. I think you need a list as a coach of stuff you'll never do again. I've done a lot of stupid stuff in my career. The 10,000 swing challenge, a thing called the velocity diet. Real quick, this is the love this diet. It's 6 protein shakes a day. Ask me what else. That's it. For 28 days. According to my daughters, and you have to delete this, I was a total asshole. CrossFit, Nautilus. As a teacher, term papers the last week of a semester. That was a rookie mistake I made. I'm going to do that again. Football coach, most conditioning drills, putting off 2-point conversions and onside kicks. If I ever coach American football again, first week in double sessions, we're doing onside kick recovery, and 2-point conversion. Why? Because the season comes down to that. Throws coach, I just write down most of the crap I see on a typical day. So, well, the reason I wanted to end these with you is I think it's also our job to look at our mistakes. And for me, when I look at my mistakes, I use poop sight to project into the future and naga as the science of hindsight. I'm not going to do that again. But I think it's really important as a staff, you guys talk about the stupid ideas you have. And make sure you write them out, because they're going to come back. And I want to make sure I thank this guy, because he's been a huge part of my life for a long time. And when he first invited me to Wake Forest, it really changed my career. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, folks.